March 7th is not just another date on a calendar. It is not random. It is not ordinary. It is not something you stumbled upon by accident. In the spirit realm, this day has been circled, marked, and announced long before you ever saw it approaching. And right now, there is a sound echoing across the heavens. It is the sound of a final boarding announcement. March 7th final call. The heavenly airplane is taking off with your blessings. Archangel Michael says you have 5 seconds to board. Open this now. This is not symbolic exaggeration. This is a divine alert. The atmosphere around you is shifting, and something prepared in the unseen realm is preparing for departure. Can you feel the urgency? There is a holy tension in the air. Just like standing at an airport gate when your name is called over the speaker, there is that sudden awareness. This is about you. This is your flight. This is your moment. The heavenly airplane is not empty. It is loaded. Loaded with answered prayers. Loaded with delaying breakthroughs. Loaded with opportunities that carry your name. For some, these blessings have been in preparation for years. For others, they were approved recently in heaven's courts. But now, the message is clear. Departure time has arrived. Archangel Michael is not whispering. He is announcing. In Scripture, he is known as a protector, a warrior, a defender of God's people. When he speaks, it is not casual. It is strategic. It is decisive. And today, the message is simple but urgent. You have 5 seconds to board. 5 seconds is not about human time. It is about divine response. It represents the critical moment between hearing and acting, between knowing and moving, between belief and obedience. Many people pray for blessings, but few recognize when those blessings are ready for pickup. They expect fireworks, thunder, dramatic signs, but heaven often moves through moments of decision. A nudge in your spirit, a stirring in your heart, a video that appears at the exact right time. You did not open this by coincidence. There are no accidents in divine timing. When heaven sends a final call, it is because everything has already been arranged. Picture the scene. The runway is clear. The engines are humming softly, preparing to roar. The cargo hold is sealed with promises that have your name written on them. Restoration, healing, financial provision, reconciliation, elevation. Doors that were once locked are now unlocked and placed carefully inside this divine aircraft. But here is the mystery. This plane does not wait forever. There is something deeply spiritual about a final call. It means opportunities have been announced before. It means invitations have already gone out. It means heaven has been patient. But now, the window is narrowing. Not because God is cruel. Not because blessings are scarce. But because seasons shift. Divine moments rotate. And when the appointed time arrives, movement must follow. Some of you have felt delay. You have wondered why prayers seem suspended, why doors seem closed, why answers felt distant. What you did not see was the preparation happening behind the scenes. Just as a plane undergoes inspection, fueling, loading, and clearance before departure, your blessings have been undergoing divine preparation. Timing had to align. People had to move. Circumstances had to shift. Spiritual resistance had to be cleared. And now, March 7th stands as a prophetic intersection between preparation and manifestation. But here is the sobering truth. Hesitation can cost you movement. Fear can anchor you to the gate. Overthinking can cause you to miss the announcement. The enemy thrives in delay. He whispers, "You have time." He says, "Later is fine." He convinces you that another flight will come. But this message is not about another flight. It is about this one. This specific, appointed, heaven-scheduled departure carrying your assigned blessings. When Archangel Michael says you have 5 seconds to board, it is not about panic. It is about priority. What will you do when heaven calls your name? Will you step forward in faith, even if you do not see the entire flight plan? Will you trust the one who prepared the journey? Or will you stand back, analyzing, doubting, questioning until the engines grow louder and the gate closes? There are rare moments in life when urgency is holy, when the pressure you feel is not anxiety but activation. This is one of those moments. The spirit realm is not stagnant. It is moving. And the heavenly airplane is not symbolic decoration. It represents divine transition. It represents elevation. You cannot remain where you were and board at the same time. Boarding requires movement. It requires leaving something behind. This is why this message is important. Because some blessings are seasonal. Some doors are time-sensitive. Some opportunities require immediate faith. And today, the announcement is clear, direct, and powerful. March 7th, final call. The heavenly airplane is taking off with your blessings. Archangel Michael says you have 5 seconds to board. Open this now. You are standing at the gate. The choice is before you. The announcement has been made. The engines are preparing. And heaven is watching your response. March 7th is not an ordinary day, and deep in your spirit, you already sense that. There are days that pass quietly, blending into routine, and then there are days that carry weight, days that feel appointed, marked, almost watched by heaven itself. March 7th is one of those days. It is not about superstition. It is not about numerology alone. It is about divine timing. Heaven does not operate randomly. God moves in seasons, in appointed moments, in divine alignments that intersect with human obedience. And when a date becomes spiritually highlighted, it is because something has matured in the unseen realm and is ready to manifest in the visible world. Throughout biblical history, God moved on specific days. There were appointed feasts, appointed battles, appointed coronations, appointed breakthroughs. The walls of Jericho did not fall on just any day. Deliverance did not come to the Israelites at random. There were set times when heaven's clock struck the hour. In the same way, March 7th represents a divine intersection. It is the convergence of your prayers, your endurance, your tears, and heaven's preparation. It is a spiritual appointment you did not schedule, but one that has been scheduled for you. You may have noticed unusual resistance lately. Increased pressure, unexpected distractions, sudden doubts. That is not coincidence. Whenever a breakthrough approaches, opposition often intensifies. The enemy senses movement before you do. He detects shifts in the atmosphere. He feels the runway being cleared, and he attempts to create noise, confusion, and delay. But resistance is often confirmation. Turbulence does not mean the plane is canceled. It means you are approaching altitude. March 7th carries a divine window. Windows in the spirit do not remain open indefinitely. They are invitations to act, to believe, to move. When Noah built the ark, there was a window of time before the rain began. When the door closed, it was not reopened. When the Israelites were told to mark their doorposts, there was a specific night assigned for protection. Timing mattered. Obedience within that timing mattered even more. This is why Archangel Michael's message is urgent. The heavenly airplane is not waiting on indefinite standby. Clearance has been granted. The manifest has been finalized. Your name has been spoken in the spirit realm. And the final call is not meant to create fear. It is meant to awaken readiness. Heaven is not scrambling. Heaven is precise. The question is not whether. The blessing is real. The question is whether you recognize the moment. Some of you have been praying for confirmation. You have asked God for a sign that it is time to move, time to trust, time to step into what feels bigger than you. Let this be that sign. Divine timing often feels like pressure because it requires decision. It requires you to move before every detail is visible. Faith does not wait for full clarity. It responds to divine prompting. There is also something prophetic about the number sequence of this date. March is the third month, often symbolizing divine completeness and resurrection power. 7 represents spiritual perfection and divine fulfillment. March 7th carries the whisper of completion and new beginnings colliding. What was incomplete is being finalized. What was delayed is being released. What felt buried is being resurrected into movement. But here is the deeper truth. Heaven responds to participation. Blessings are prepared, but boarding requires action. Agreement activates movement. When you publicly align your faith with what heaven is declaring, something shifts. That is why I need you to do something intentional right now. If this message resonates in your spirit, like this video as a sign of agreement. Subscribe to this channel if you are ready to stay aligned with prophetic timing. Comment "I am ready" as your declaration that you will not miss this flight. And share this message with someone who needs to hear their name being called. These actions are not just digital interactions. They are faith responses. They are your way of stepping toward the gate instead of away from it. Because here is the reality. Many people will hear about divine moments, but only a few will treat them as urgent. Many will scroll past their blessing because it did not appear out the way they expected. But those who recognize the hour, who sense the shift, who respond quickly, are the ones who experience acceleration. March 7th is not about hype. It is about alignment. It is about recognizing that heaven's schedule and your obedience are about to meet on the runway of destiny. The engines are warming. The atmosphere is charged. And something in your spirit knows this is not random. March 7th is your appointed moment. The final call has gone out. The question now is not whether the day is significant. The question is whether you will treat it as such. The heavenly airplane is not a random image. It is not poetic decoration meant to stir emotion and fade away. It is a prophetic symbol, layered with meaning, urgency, and divine intelligence. When Archangel Michael speaks of a heavenly airplane taking off with your blessings, he is revealing movement in the spirit realm. Airplanes are not built to remain parked. They are engineered for transition, for elevation, for distance to be covered in a short amount of time. And that is exactly what heaven is signaling to you right now: transition and acceleration. In the natural world, an airplane carries precious cargo and specific passengers to an assigned destination. There is preparation before takeoff. There is clearance from the control tower. There is alignment on the runway. Nothing about departure is accidental. In the same way, this heavenly airplane represents blessings that have been carefully prepared, inspected, and authorized for release. These are not random gifts falling from the sky. These are strategic answers to specific prayers. These are divine responses to seasons of endurance, faith, and obedience. The cargo on board is not small. It includes restoration for what was broken. It includes provision for what seemed impossible. It includes healing for what felt permanent. It includes open doors where there were once walls. But here is the key. Cargo must be received. A plane can arrive at its destination, but if the passenger never boards, the journey never becomes personal. The blessing can be real, yet unclaimed. Why do some people miss divine departures? It is rarely because the blessing was not meant for them. More often, it is because they hesitated at the gate. They questioned their worthiness. They allowed fear to whisper louder than faith. They convinced themselves there would always be another flight. But heaven does not operate on endless postponement. There are divine windows. There are appointed departures. And when the final call sounds, it signals that preparation has reached completion. The 5 seconds Archangel Michael speaks about is deeply symbolic. 5 represents grace. It represents unearned favor extended toward humanity. The 5 seconds is not about pressure. It is about response. Grace is being extended, but grace still requires agreement. In those 5 seconds, heaven watches for movement. Will you step forward? Will you trust the one who prepared the aircraft? Will you release doubt long enough to move your feet? There is also something powerful about altitude. Airplanes rise above turbulence. They rise above traffic. They rise above limitations of the ground. When you board what heaven has prepared, you are not just receiving blessings, you are shifting levels. You cannot carry old mindsets into higher altitude without feeling discomfort. You cannot cling to fear and expect elevation to feel stable. Boarding requires surrender. It requires letting go of what kept you grounded. Some of you have been circling the runway for years. You have felt close to breakthrough but never fully airborne. You sensed promise but remained in preparation. What makes this moment different is divine clearance. The control tower of heaven has spoken. The runway is aligned. The cargo is secured. The only missing element is your step of faith. And here is the spiritual law at work. Response activates release. When you respond to heaven's invitation, movement accelerates. When you ignore it, stagnation lingers. The heavenly airplane is not about exclusivity, it is about readiness. The boarding pass is not perfection, it is favor. It is saying, even if I do not understand every detail, I trust the one who called my name. There are people who will watch the plane taxi forward and still debate whether it is real. There are others who will feel the vibration of the engines and recognize it as confirmation. The difference is not intelligence. It is sensitivity. Spiritual sensitivity allows you to discern when symbolism carries divine instruction. Right now, the symbolism is clear. Your blessings are in motion. They are not theoretical. They are not distant dreams. They are prepared realities awaiting your agreement. But what you are about to understand next will shift everything about how you see this boarding process. Because the boarding pass itself carries a revelation that most people overlook, and it determines who steps onto that aircraft with confidence. You'll be glad you stayed for what's about to be revealed. Now, before we move forward, seal this moment with faith. Top Grace lifts me in the comments if this message resonates with your spirit. Blessing code 246 is now activated. As this revelation settles in your heart, understand something deeper. This mission is bigger than one message or one moment. Every time this word reaches someone who feels forgotten, another soul finds the runway back to hope. When you sow into this channel through super thanks, membership, or a PayPal donation using the link in the description or the PayPal QR code flashing in the video, you are not giving to a platform. You are fueling a flight carrying blessings to countless lives. Scripture declares, "Give, and it will be given unto you." And this is not ancient ink on paper. It is God speaking directly into your obedience right now. When you release a seed, you activate harvest in unseen fields. I feel led to say this clearly. I am stepping into divine alignment through my giving. This is your prophetic moment to partner with the spreading of God's word. As you sow, may open heavens respond, may oil of favor flow, and may fire of acceleration rest upon your household. Act now. Release your seed and let your obedience board this mission with power. There is something about a countdown that changes the atmosphere instantly. When you hear numbers decreasing, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, your heart begins to beat differently. Your focus sharpens. Distractions fade. A countdown signals that something irreversible is about to happen. And when Archangel Michael declares that you have 5 seconds to board, he is not creating drama. He is activating urgency. He is announcing that heaven's timeline has reached a decisive moment. 5 seconds. It sounds brief. It feels intense. But spiritually, it carries weight far beyond human measurement. In biblical symbolism, the number 5 represents grace, divine favor that cannot be earned, only receive. The 5 seconds is a window of grace. It is heaven saying, this is your moment to respond. Grace opens the door, but response moves your feet. Grace prepares the airplane, but response steps across the threshold. Why would heaven use a countdown? Because countdowns eliminate hesitation. They cut through overthinking. They silence endless internal debates. In those 5 seconds, you are not meant to analyze every possibility. You are meant to decide. And decision is powerful in the spirit realm. Decision draws a line between old seasons and new ones. Decision separates delay from destiny. Some of you have lived in what feels like an endless waiting room. You have prayed. You have fasted. You have believed. Yet nothing seemed to shift. What you did not see was that heaven was not ignoring you. Heaven was aligning circumstances. Just as an aircraft must receive clearance from the control tower before it moves, your blessing required divine authorization. Timing had to synchronize. Resistance had to be addressed. Spiritual battles had to be fought on your behalf. Archangel Michael, the warrior and protector, does not speak lightly. When he announces a countdown, it means clearance hath been granted. But here is the tension. Countdowns do not pause for comfort. They move forward whether you feel ready or not. That is why the 5 seconds is both grace and test. It is grace because you are being invited. It is test because hesitation reveals what truly governs your heart. Is it faith or is it fear? Is it trust or is it control? The difference between delay and disobedience is subtle but significant. Delay often disguises itself as wisdom. You tell yourself you are being cautious, responsible, practical. But sometimes delay is simply fear wearing a logical mask. When heaven says move, waiting can become resistance. The 5-second countdown forces clarity. It exposes whether you will step forward when called. Imagine standing at the gate as the final announcement echoes. You hear your name. You feel the pull. Yet you hesitate because you cannot see the full map of the journey. That hesitation is the battleground. The enemy thrives in that space. He whispers, what if it fails? What if you are not ready? What if this is not really for you? But heaven's voice is different. It says, what if this is exactly what you prayed for? The countdown is not meant to intimidate you. It is meant to awaken you. It is a divine interruption to stagnation. It shakes you out of passivity. It demands engagement. And in those 5 seconds, something profound happens in the spirit realm. Angels observe. Doors respond. paths begin to clear. Your agreement releases movement. There is also another layer to this countdown. 5 seconds symbolizes transition from preparation to action. For years, you may have been in preparation mode, learning, growing, healing, enduring. Preparation is necessary, but it is not the final destination. At some point, preparation must give way to participation. The countdown marks that shift. When the engines of an airplane begin to roar, there is no turning back to the gate without significant disruption. Movement has begun. The runway is active. In the same way, once you respond in faith, acceleration follows. You may not see immediate fireworks, but spiritually, gears begin to turn. Connections align. Opportunities shift. Favor begins to move ahead of you. Some people fear countdowns because they fear change. Boarding means leaving something behind. It means releasing familiarity. It means trusting altitude over ground-level comfort. But understand this, what you leave behind cannot compare to where you are being taken. The 5 seconds is not about loss. It is about lift. And here is the deeper truth. Every major breakthrough in your life will be preceded by a moment of decision. A moment that feels compressed, intense, urgent. That is not coincidence. That is pattern. God often moves through decisive windows. When Peter stepped out of the boat, there was no extended negotiation. There was a call and there was a step. The miracle existed in the space between hearing and moving. The 5-second countdown is that space for you. It is not about perfection. It is about willingness. Heaven is not asking for flawless execution. It is asking for faithful response. When you move within the window of grace, you align yourself with divine momentum. Right now, in this very moment, imagine the numbers beginning to descend. 5. Grace extended. 4. Fear confronted. 3. Faith rising. 2. Decision forming. 1. Movement activated. The heavenly airplane is not waiting indefinitely. The runway is lit. The engines are engaged. And the countdown is not meant to pressure you into panic but to propel you into purpose. This is your moment to understand that urgency can be holy. That divine timing is precise. That when Archangel Michael speaks of 5 seconds, it is not about human limitation but heavenly invitation. The question remains, when the countdown reaches 1, will you still be standing still, or will you be stepping forward into the blessing that has been waiting for your response? There is a moment in every airport when the atmosphere shifts from general announcements to something personal. The loudspeaker crackles, and suddenly a specific name echoes through the terminal. Conversations pause. Heads turn. And the one who hears their name feels it instantly. This is about me. In the spirit realm, that is what is happening right now. Your name is being called. This is not a general blessing drifting through the air hoping to land on someone. This is not a vague promise thrown into the crowd. The heavenly airplane preparing for departure carries assignments with names attached. Heaven does not operate in confusion. God is intentional. He is precise. He is personal. And when Archangel Michael announces this final call, it is because your name hath been spoken in places you cannot see. Scripture reveals that your name is written in heaven. That alone should shift your perspective. You are not anonymous in the spirit realm. You are not overlooked. You are not a background character in someone else's miracle. Your story matters. Your obedience matters. Your response matters. When heaven prepares movement, it prepares it with identity attached. Some of you have felt invisible lately. You have worked in silence. You have prayed in secret. You have endured battles that no one else saw. It may have seemed like your faithfulness went unnoticed. But there is a book in heaven where faithfulness is recorded. There is a divine ledger where tears are remembered. There is a record of every time you chose trust over fear. And now, your name is being called not because you demanded it, but because the time appointed for you has arrived. Imagine the manifest of that heavenly airplane. It is not random ink on paper. It is intentional selection. Your season of preparation qualified you for this moment of elevation. Your endurance during delay positioned you for acceleration. The nights you cried out in prayer were not wasted. The days you kept believing when evidence was scarce were not ignored. Heaven has a memory that never fails. When your name is called, it demands response. You cannot answer someone else's boarding announcement. You cannot step forward on another person's assignment. This call is personal. And here is what makes it powerful. When heaven calls your name, it carries authority. It carries validation. It silences the lies that told you that you were unworthy, unqualified, or unprepared. The enemy often tries to drown out heaven's call with noise. Doubt grows louder when destiny approaches. Fear intensifies when purpose is near. You may hear internal voices saying, "What if this is not really for you? Or what if you fail?" But those whispers are not coming from the controlled tower of heaven. They are attempts to keep you seated when you are meant to stand. There is also something sacred about answering quickly. When a passenger hears their name at the gate and responds immediately, it shows readiness. It shows attentiveness. It shows expectation. In the same way, spiritual sensitivity allows you to recognize when God is calling you into movement. The call may not always sound dramatic. Sometimes it feels like a deep knowing, a quiet certainty, a stirring you cannot explain but cannot ignore. Your name being called means transition is personal. Elevation is personal. Breakthrough is personal. The blessing on that aircraft is not generic. It aligns with your journey, your battles, your promises. Restoration for your specific loss. Provision for your specific need. Direction for your specific confusion. Heaven custom prepares what it releases. But here is the responsibility. When your name is called, remaining seated becomes a choice. Ignoring it becomes intentional. And often, the greatest regret is not failure but silence. Not stepping when invited. Not responding when summoned. The heavenly airplane does not call out of obligation. It calls out of opportunity. There are moments in life when everything converges into a single decision. This is one of those moments. Your name is not being whispered timidly. It is being declared. It is being announced with clarity. The final call is echoing because the departure is real. The runway is active. The engines are prepared. And heaven is waiting for acknowledgement. Some of you are waiting for louder confirmation. You are waiting for lightning in the sky or thunder in the distance. But the fact that this message reached you is confirmation enough. The stirring in your chest is confirmation. The sense that this is not random is confirmation. Heaven rarely shouts when it can speak directly to your spirit. Picture yourself standing as your name is spoken. Feel the shift from passive observer to active participant. That is what is happening spiritually. The transition from watching others board their miracles to stepping into your own assignment. From hearing testimonies to becoming one. Your name is being called because you are part of this movement. Because the blessing prepared aligns with your obedience. Because the timing set for March 7th intersects with your destiny. The question is not whether heaven knows you. It does. The question is not whether your blessing exists. It does. The question now is whether you will answer when called. The announcement has gone out. The gate is open. The manifest includes you, and the sound echoing across the spiritual turmoil is clear, intentional, and urgent. Your name is being called. There is a unique kind of pain that comes from almost boarding, almost saying yes, almost stepping forward, almost believing. Watching a plane leave without you is not loud at first. It does not explode with noise inside your heart. It begins quietly. The gate closes. The engines roar. The aircraft begins to move. And you stand there, holding everything you needed to step forward, but choosing not to. That is the danger of watching the plane leave. In the natural world, missing a flight can mean inconvenience. You reschedule. You wait. You adjust it. But in the spirit realm, some departures are seasonal. They are aligned with divine timing that does not loop endlessly. When heaven prepares a specific moment for movement, it carries grace for that window. When that window closes, it does not mean God has abandoned you. It means the season has shifted. There is a story Jesus told about 10 virgins waiting for the bridegroom. They all expected his arrival. They all prepared lamps, but only 5 carried extra oil. When the moment came, half were ready and half were scrambling. The door closed, not because the invitation was false, but because readiness mattered. That story is not about exclusion. It is about preparation meeting opportunity. The danger of watching the plane leave is rarely about ignorance. Most people sense when something important is happening. They feel the stirring. They recognize the shift. But fear convinces them to stay seated. Pride tells them to wait for a better opportunity. Doubt whispers that maybe this is not really their moment. And while they debate internally, the engines grow louder. Procrastination is subtle. It rarely announces itself as rebellion. It disguises itself as caution. You tell yourself you will move tomorrow. You tell yourself you will pray about it more. You tell yourself you need more confirmation. But sometimes confirmation has already been given, and what you call wisdom is actually hesitation. Imagine standing at the gate while the final boarding call echoes through the terminal. You hear your name. You feel the urgency. Yet you look around, wondering what others are doing. You hesitate because stepping forward would require you to leave your comfort zone. And then it happens. The door closes. The jet bridge retracts. The plane begins to taxi away. At first, you tell yourself it is fine. Maybe another flight will come. Maybe another opportunity will present itself. But deep inside, there is a quiet ache. The ache of knowing you were close. The ache of knowing you sensed it. The ache of knowing you could have moved but did not. Spiritually, that ache is what heaven wants to protect you from. God does not announce final calls to create pressure. He announces them to prevent regret. The heavenly airplane taking off with your blessings is not meant to intimidate you. It is meant to awaken urgency so that you do not stand at the window watching your moment ascend without you. There are people who have lived with the weight of almost for years. Almost starting the business. Almost reconciling the relationship. Almost stepping into ministry. Almost applying for the opportunity. Almost believing they were worthy of more. And the longer almost lingers, the heavier it becomes. It begins to shape identity. It whispers, "You are the kind of person who misses things." But that is not your identity. You are not called to watch from a distance. You are called to participate. The danger is not that the blessing is unavailable. The danger is becoming comfortable with observation instead of action. When a plane takes off, it generates wind and noise. You cannot ignore it. You feel it even from a distance. In the same way, when someone else steps into their breakthrough because they responded, you will feel the movement around you. Testimonies will rise. Doors will open for others. And while celebration is good, comparison can turn into regret if you know you ignored your own call. This is why delay must be confronted. Delay feeds fear. Fear feeds paralysis. And paralysis keeps you seated while destiny moves. The enemy does not need to block your blessing completely. He only needs to convince you to wait long enough for the window to close. But here is the hope woven into this warning. You are still at the gate. The plane has not yet left. The announcement is still echoing. The engines are preparing, not departing. This is not a message about loss. It is a message about decision. You are being shown the danger so you can avoid it. Regret is heavy. It lingers longer than fear. Fear fades once you act, but regret remains when you do not. The pain of stepping out in faith lasts a moment. The pain of missing your moment can last a lifetime. So ask yourself honestly, will you be the one pressing your face against the window, watching what could have been? Or will you be the one fastening your seatbelt, feeling the surge of movement as altitude begins to rise? The heavenly airplane is not meant to be admired from a distance. It is meant to be boarded. The final call is not an echo to ignore. It is an invitation to avoid the silent sorrow of almost. The gate is still open. The choice is still yours. And the greatest danger is not the plane leaving. It is you deciding to stay behind. Before anyone steps onto an airplane, there is one thing they must possess: a boarding pass. It is the proof of authorization. It is the confirmation of assignment. It declares that your name is on the manifest and that your seat hath been secured. Without it, you may stand near the gate. You may admire the aircraft. You may even desire the journey, but you cannot enter. Spiritually, the same principle applies. The heavenly airplane taking off with your blessings requires a boarding pass. And what is that boarding pass? It is faith expressed through obedience. Many people misunderstand qualification in the spirit realm. They assume the boarding pass is perfection. They assume it is flawless performance, a spotless history, or spiritual superiority. But heaven does not issue boarding passes based on human perfection. It issues them based on surrendered trust. Faith is the credential. Obedience is the confirmation code. When you trust God enough to move when He says move, your boarding pass is activated. When you obey even when the full blueprint is not visible, you present your authorization at the gate. It is not about knowing every detail of the flight plan. It is about trusting the captain who has never failed. Think about how a boarding pass works. It contains your name, your destination, and your assigned seat. In the spirit realm, your boarding pass carries identity, purpose, and position. Identity reminds you who you are in God's plan. Purpose reveals why this flight matters. Position determines where you are seated in this new level. Some of you have underestimated your seat. You assumed you would be in the back, unnoticed, insignificant. But heaven assigns seats strategically. You are not randomly placed. The revelation many overlook is this: the boarding pass is often placed in your hand long before departure. Faith has been growing in you for years. Obedience has been forming in quiet moments. Every time you chose integrity when compromise was easier, your pass was being printed. Every time you forgave when bitterness was tempting, your pass was being confirmed. Every time you trusted during uncertainty, the barcode of your obedience was being sealed. But here is where the battle intensifies. Just before boarding, doubt attempts to make you question the authenticity of your pass. The enemy whispers, "Are you sure this is real? Are you sure you belong on this flight? Maybe your name was included by mistake." These whispers are not new. They have followed believers throughout history. Moses questioned his calling. Gideon doubted his strength. Peter feared his limitations. Yet in each case, the boarding pass of faith was stronger than the voice of doubt. The security gate in the natural world scans the past to verify legitimacy. In the spirit realm, your obedience is the scan. When you act in alignment with God's prompting, heaven confirms your authorization. Doors begin to open. Pathways become clear. What seemed blocked suddenly responds. There is also something powerful about gratitude in this process. Gratitude strengthens your grip on the boarding pass. When you thank God before takeoff, you demonstrate confidence in arrival. Gratitude silences fear because it shifts focus from uncertainty to trust. It declares, "I may not see the entire sky, but I trust the one who controls it." Another revelation hidden in the boarding pass is this: you cannot use someone else's. Comparison is dangerous at the gate. You cannot board based on another person's faith, another person's calling, or another person's testimony. Your pass is uniquely coded for you. Your journey is distinct. Your altitude will look different. When you try to imitate someone else's flight, you risk missing your own. Some of you have been holding your boarding pass loosely, uncertain whether you should step forward. You feel the paper in your hand, but you hesitate. You wonder if you are truly ready. But readiness is not the absence of fear. It is movement despite it. You do not become ready by waiting. You become ready by walking toward the gate. The moment you hand over your boarding pass and step onto the aircraft, something shifts. You are no longer a spectator. You are a participant. You are no longer watching from the terminal. You are preparing for altitude. That single step changes perspective. The runway no longer feels distant. It feels immediate. And understand this clearly. The boarding pass revelation is not about exclusion. It is about alignment. Anyone can receive the invitation. But those who respond in faith activate the journey. The heavenly airplane is not reserved for the flawless. It is prepared for the faithful. So examine your heart. You believe enough to move. You trust enough to surrender control. You understand that obedience is not restriction but access. Your boarding pass is already in your hand. It has been printed through years of growth, tears, endurance, and trust. The gate agent of heaven is not asking for your resume. He is scanning your faith. He is looking for agreement. He is waiting for you to extend your pass with confidence instead of hesitation. The engines are humming louder now. The runway lights are glowing. The final call has echoed. And the revelation stands before you. Your boarding pass is faith expressed through obedience. The question is no longer whether you are invited. The question is whether you will step forward, extend what heaven has placed in your hand, and walk boldly into the seat assigned to you before the doors close and the aircraft begins to move. Before you ever heard the final call, before the countdown echoed in your spirit, before the urgency pressed against your heart, something was already happening behind the scenes. The blessings were being loaded on board. Carefully, intentionally, strategically. The heavenly airplane is not empty. It is not symbolic imagination. It is filled with what heaven has prepared specifically for you. Picture the cargo hold of that aircraft. Large containers sealed with promises. Boxes labeled with restoration. crates marked healing, containers stamped financial breakthrough, assignments wrapped in protection, opportunities secured with divine timing. None of it random, none of it right. Every piece placed exactly where it belongs. Heaven does not scramble at the last minute. God does not prepare blessings in panic. Long before you sensed movement, preparation was underway. While you were praying in uncertainty, heaven was assembling answers. While you were enduring delay, angels were arranging alignment. While you questioned whether anything was happening at all, divine hands were loading what would soon be released. Some of the blessings on board are restorative. What was broken will be repaired. What was stolen will be returned in multiplied form. Relationships that fractured under pressure will find healing through humility and wisdom. Hearts that carried silent wounds will experience peace that feels unfamiliar but deeply right. Some blessings are financial, not merely money, but provision with purpose. Debt relief, unexpected opportunities, ideas that generate income, doors that connect you to the right people at the right time. Heaven understands earthly needs. Provision is not separate from spirituality. It is part of divine care. Some blessings are physical and emotional healing. Strength where fatigue has lingered. Clarity where confusion dominated. Calm where anxiety tried to rule. The cargo hold contains relief for what weighed heavily on you. It contains renewal for what felt drained. Other blessings are elevation, gramoyans, platforms, assignments that stretch you into greater influence. These are not for ego. They are for impact. The higher you rise, the wider your reach. The wider your reach, the more lives you touch. Heaven elevates with intention. But here is what makes this moment powerful. These blessings were loaded before you felt ready. God did not wait for you to be perfect. He prepared based on promise, not performance. The delay you experienced was not cancellation. It was coordination. Everything had to align before departure could occur. You may have thought heaven forgot you because nothing seemed to move. But just because you could not see the cargo being loaded does not mean it was not happening. In an airport, passengers rarely witness what is placed in the hold beneath them. They trust the process. They board believing that what they need will arrive with them. In the same way, faith trusts that what God promised is already secured. There is also acceleration attached to this flight. Once the plane leaves the ground, distance that would take days by foot is covered in hours. Divine acceleration compresses time. What seemed delayed for years can shift in months. What felt stagnant can suddenly surge forward. When heaven moves, it does not crawl. It advances with power. And here is something you must understand. The blessings on board are not only for you. They will impact those around you. Your healing will heal others. Your provision will bless others. Your elevation will open doors for others. The cargo includes overflow. God rarely blesses in isolation. He blesses in multiplication. You may still question whether this is truly happening. You may wonder if you are imagining the urgency. But listen closely. Engines are not warmed without purpose. Cargo is not loaded without destination. Final calls are not announced without departure approaching. The departure moment is closer than you think. Something is shifting even now. The atmosphere around you may feel charged. You may sense a stirring you cannot explain. That is alignment. That is preparation reaching completion. That is heaven signaling that what has been loaded is about to move. Before we continue, respond in faith. Type "My blessings are loaded" in the comments if you believe heaven has prepared something for you. Blessing code 583 is now activated. And as this truth settles in your spirit, remember this: every time this message reaches a heart that feels forgotten, another life steps toward their runway of hope. When you release a super thanks, become a member, or so through the PayPal link in the description or the PayPal QR code flashing on the screen, you are helping load blessings into the lives of countless others. Scripture declares that when you sow generously, you reap generously, and this is God speaking life into your obedience right now. I sense this clearly. I am partnering with heaven's movement through my giving. Your seed becomes fuel for flights you may never personally see, but heaven records every act. As you give, may rivers of provision flow back into your household, may favor surround you like a shield, and may acceleration find you quickly. Step into this prophetic act. Sow now and let your obedience rise with this mission. You will be grateful you leaned in for what is coming next, because what happens at the moment of ignition changes everything. There is a distinct sound that signals no return. It begins as a low vibration beneath your feet. Then it grows, steady, powerful, undeniable. The engines are starting. Not idling, not testing, starting. And when the engines of the heavenly airplane begin to roar, it means movement is no longer theoretical. It is imminent. You can stand near a plane while it is parked and feel nothing. But when the engines ignite, the atmosphere changes. The air shifts. The ground trembles slightly. Conversations become harder to hear because something stronger has taken over the environment. In the spirit realm, that is what is happening right now. The vibration you feel is not anxiety. It is activation. The sound of engines starting represents momentum. It represents energy gathering for forward motion. For a long time, your life may have felt like it was waiting at the gate, prepared but stationary. Promises spoken but not yet fulfilled. Prayers prayed but not yet manifested. But once engines engage, waiting transitions into action. Some of you have sensed subtle shifts recently. Unexpected conversations. New ideas surfacing. Old doors quietly closing. Opportunities appearing in small, almost unnoticeable ways. These are not coincidences. They are early tremors of ignition. When heaven prepares to move you, it rarely begins with a loud explosion. It starts with alignment. It starts with internal clarity. It starts with courage rising where fear once dominated. But here is the truth about engine noise. It can feel overwhelming. Change is rarely silent. Growth often feels disruptive. When momentum builds, comfort zones are shaken. Familiar routines begin to feel too small. Old mindsets struggle to survive in a new atmosphere. That shaking is not instability, it is propulsion. The enemy understands the power of ignition. That is why he attempts to create distraction at the exact moment engines begin to roar. He wants you to misinterpret momentum as chaos. He wants you to step away from the gate just as movement begins. But discernment will protect you. Chaos brings confusion. Ignition brings clarity. Even if it feels intense, there is direction attached to it. When a plane prepares for takeoff, it does not look back at the terminal. It faces the runway. Forward. Always forward. This is not the hour to revisit old regrets. This is not the season to re-examine doors that already closed. The sound you hear is not inviting you backward. It is calling you into forward focus. There is also power in agreement during ignition. When passengers buckle their seatbelts, they are acknowledging that takeoff is near. They align themselves with what is happening. In the same way, your faith declaration matters right now. Speak alignment over your life. Declare readiness. Agree with heaven's movement. So I invite you to do something intentional. If you sense the engines of change starting in your life, like this video as your sign of alignment. Subscribe to this channel to stay connected to prophetic direction in the season. Comment boldly, "I hear the engines," as your declaration that you will not retreat at the sound of movement. Share this message with someone who feels the vibration but does not yet understand it. These actions are not routine. They are symbolic seatbelts. They are your way of saying, "I am ready for takeoff." Because here is what happens next. The plane does not remain in ignition forever. It begins to taxi. Slow at first. Intentional. Lined up with the runway. The taxiing phase can feel like gradual progress. Small steps. Measured pace. But do not underestimate it. Taxiing positions you for acceleration. And then comes the surge. The moment when speed increases rapidly. The moment when the ground beneath begins to blur. The moment when gravity feels challenged. That surge is coming. The sound of engines starting is the warning before lift. It is mercy before momentum. You may feel stretched right now. You may feel like things are moving faster than you expected. That is because once heaven sets things in motion, it does not crawl. It advances. The blessings loaded on board are not meant to sit idle. They are meant to be delivered. There will be those who step away at the sound of engines because they prefer quiet stagnation over loud growth. Do not be among them. Growth is noisy. Breakthrough vibrates. Destiny roars before it rises. Listen carefully within your spirit. Beneath the surface of your thoughts, beneath the noise of daily life, there is a deeper sound. A rumbling of promise. A stirring of acceleration. A confirmation that something long prepared is finally moving. The sound of the engine starting means the final call was real. It means the cargo is secured. It means the runway is clear. It means hesitation must give way to expectation. You are not imagining the shift. You are not fabricating the momentum. You are hearing the early thunder of elevation. The engines are no longer silent. They are starting. Here is a sacred moment that happens the instant the wheels leave the ground. It is subtle, yet powerful. You feel a shift in your body. The vibration changes. The earth that once held you releases its grip. And suddenly, what felt heavy moments before becomes lighter. That is what happens after takeoff. And spiritually, this is what is about to happen in your life. When the heavenly airplane lifts into the air, it signifies elevation. Not symbolic hype. Not emotional excitement. Elevation. A real shift in level. You cannot take off and remain at ground level at the same time. The moment of liftoff separates where you were from where you are going. After takeoff, perspective changes first. From the ground, obstacles look massive. Buildings seem tall. Roads seem long and complicated. But once you rise, those same obstacles shrink beneath you. What once intimidated you begins to look smaller. What once felt impossible begins to feel manageable. Elevation changes perception. Many of the battles that exhausted you were ground-level battles. You were fighting from a place of limitation, trying to solve spiritual challenges with human strength. But altitude brings advantage. When God lifts you, He shifts your vantage point. You begin to see strategy instead of chaos. You begin to see direction instead of confusion. After takeoff, turbulence may appear, but turbulence at altitude is different from struggle on the ground. On the ground, resistance can stop movement completely. In the air, turbulence shakes but does not halt progress. You may feel moments of instability in this next season, But understand this: shaking does not mean falling. Movement continues even when the cabin trembles. There is also a profound release that happens after takeoff. The weight of what you left behind no longer travels with you. The runway, the gate, the waiting area, all of it becomes smaller and smaller in the distance. The things that once delayed you no longer have authority over you. Old cycles lose their grip. Old labels fade. Old limitations weaken. You may notice certain relationships shift after takeoff. Not everyone is assigned to your altitude. Some people are comfortable with you at ground level because it keeps you within their reach. But when God elevates you, the circle may change. Do not fear this. Elevation often requires adjustment. The aircraft is designed for a specific number of passengers. Not everyone can fit into your next dimension. After takeoff, divine protection becomes evident. Airplanes are equipped with systems that passengers rarely see. Navigation instruments, radar, communication with control towers across vast distances. In the same way, once you step into this new level, heaven assigns protection you may not fully recognize. Angels move strategically. Doors close quietly before harm can approach. Detours redirect you without explanation. What looks like inconvenience may actually be preservation. These also follows obedience. There is a calm that settles once the decision to board is behind you. The internal debate quiets. The second-guessing fades. You may still encounter unknowns ahead, but the torment of indecision disappears. After takeoff, there is commitment to the journey. Another powerful reality after takeoff is acceleration. On the ground, progress feels slow. Traffic delays movement. Obstacles block direction. But in the air, distance is covered quickly. What would have taken months may take weeks. What seemed like a distant dream may suddenly feel within reach. This is divine compression of time. Yet, altitude requires adjustment. Your ears may feel pressure. Your body senses change. Spiritually, this adjustment may look like stretching. New responsibilities. New opportunities. Greater influence. Do not mistake stretching for strain. You are adapting to a higher level. There will be moments when you look out the window and realize how far you have come. The landscape of your past will appear smaller. The pain that once dominated your thoughts will no longer define you. Gratitude will rise naturally. You will understand that boarding was worth the risk. But here is something crucial. After takeoff, there is no walking back down the aisle to exit midair. Commitment becomes permanent until landing. This is why obedience before takeoff is so important. Once elevation begins, you are in motion. And motion toward destiny is not meant to be reversed. Some of you fear success more than failure because success demands growth. But takeoff is not about ego. It is about purpose. The blessings on board were not loaded for you to circle aimlessly in the sky. They are carrying you toward a prepared destination. Right now, imagine the moment of lift. The wheels retracting. The earth growing smaller beneath you. The sun shining stronger above the clouds. That is what awaits on the other side of your obedience. After takeoff, you are no longer bound by the limitations of the runway. You are in open sky, guided, protected, accelerated, and the same God who prepared the aircraft is guiding the journey. Takeoff is not the end. It is the beginning of altitude. There is a sound that carries more weight than any engine, more urgency than any countdown. It is the sound of a door preparing to close. Not violently, not angrily, but decisively. The open door that once invited you forward does not remain open forever. And right now, in the spirit realm, the heavenly airplane door is still open, but it is not waiting indefinitely. An open door represents opportunity. It represents race extended. It represents access granted. But every door operates within timing. In airports, boarding doors are not closed randomly. They close because departure must proceed. The schedule moves forward whether every passenger is comfortable or not. In the same way, divine timing moves with intention. This is not about fear. It is about awareness. The enemy wants you to believe that doors are permanent fixtures, that you can stroll through whenever you feel like it. But heaven operates through appointed moments. When God opens a door, it is powerful. When that same door begins to close, it signals that transition is imminent. Some of you have grown accustomed to standing near open doors without walking through them. You admire the possibility. You discuss the potential. You even imagine what life would look like on the other side. But imagination is not movement. Observation is not obedience. The open door was not meant to be stared at. It was meant to be entered. There is something sacred about recognizing when a moment is narrowing. It sharpens your focus. It silences distractions. It forces decision. You cannot linger forever between past and future. At some point, you must choose. The closing door does not represent rejection. It represents shift. The season of invitation is transforming into the season of execution. If you hesitate now, you risk standing in a place that no longer carries the same grace it once did. Think about Noah and the ark. The door remained open while preparation took place. But when the time appointed by God arrived, the door was shut. Not by Noah, by God Himself. The opportunity to enter was available, but not forever. That story is not meant to intimidate you. It is meant to awaken you. Right now, the heavenly airplane door is still open. The final call has been announced. The engines have started. The blessings are loaded. The boarding pass is in your hand. But the open door will not remain open simply because you are undecided. There are two voices competing in this moment. One says, wait. Think about it longer. There is no rush. The other says, move. Trust. Step forward. The first voice feels comfortable. The second feels urgent. But urgency is not always panic. Sometimes urgency is divine mercy reminding you that destiny does not pause. As the door prepares to close, clarity becomes sharper. You begin to see what truly matters. Distractions lose their shine. Excuses feel weaker. Deep inside, you know this is not random. You know this moment carries weight. The narrowing door is not a threat. It is a mirror. It reflects your priorities. It reveals your courage. It exposes whether fear or faith governs your steps. And here is the truth many avoid. Indecision is still a decision. Standing still while the door closes is choosing not to enter. Silence becomes response. Delay becomes answer. But you are not being shown this to produce regret. You are being shown this to provoke action. The door is still open. The light from inside the aircraft still spills into the terminal. The invitation still echoes. There is also something powerful about crossing thresholds. Once you step through a door, you enter a different environment. The sounds change. The atmosphere shifts. The expectations rise. You leave behind the comfort of the waiting area and step into the commitment of the journey. If you sense the narrowing, do not interpret it as loss. Interpret it as confirmation that departure is real. A closing door means movement is imminent. It means the season of waiting is ending. Imagine yourself standing just a few steps away from that open entrance. The crew is looking toward you. The engines hum steadily. The runway lights are bright. There is no confusion about what is happening. This is the moment where courage must outweigh comfort. You can feel it. A window of hesitation is shrinking. The space between where you stand and where you are meant to be is only a few steps. Those steps may feel heavy, but they are necessary. The open door is closing, not because you are unwanted, but because destiny is moving. Heaven is not retreating. Heaven is advancing. And the final image before you is simple. A doorway still open, but not forever. Will you step through before it closes? The choice is now. You step forward. When the final call echoed, when the engines roared, when the open door began to narrow, you did not retreat. You did not overanalyze. You did not let fear anchor you to the terminal. You boarded. And the moment your foot crossed the threshold, something shifted in the spirit realm. Heaven responded. There is celebration when obedience meets opportunity. There is movement when faith aligns with timing. The very act of stepping forward activated what had been waiting. The heavenly airplane did not just carry your blessings. It was waiting for your agreement to release them fully into motion. As you took your seat, peace began to settle over you. Not because you suddenly understood every detail of the journey, but because obedience silences torment. The internal battle ended the moment you said yes. The second-guessing lost its voice. The fear that once felt loud became distant background noise. And then came the lift. The wheels rose from the runway. The ground that once defined your limits became smaller beneath you. The delays, the disappointments, the nights of uncertainty, they did not disappear from memory, but they lost their authority. You were no longer standing on the same level. You were rising above it. Heaven responds to movement with acceleration. As you ascended, angels were assigned to your path in greater measure. Protection surrounded you in ways you may never fully see. Doors ahead began to unlock quietly. Conversations that needed to happen started aligning. Resources that seemed delayed began shifting toward you. Boarding was not just symbolic. It was transformational. You may still encounter clouds along the journey. Every flight passes through them. But clouds do not cancel altitude. They simply obscure vision temporarily. And even within clouds, the plane continues forward. Even within uncertainty, destiny progresses. What you must understand now is that you are not traveling alone. The captain of this journey is faithful. The one who prepared the aircraft, loaded the blessings, and called your name does not abandon flights mid-air. He completes where he begins. There is also something powerful about arrival. Every flight has a destination. This one is no different. The blessings on board are not abstract promises. They are real outcomes. Restoration that becomes visible. Provision that becomes tangible. Healing that becomes testimony. Elevation that becomes influence. But perhaps the greatest blessing is what happened inside you. You overcame hesitation. You confronted fear. You chose trust over comfort. That internal victory is the foundation for every external breakthrough that follows. Heaven does not forget obedience. When you moved within the 5-second window of grace, it was recorded. When you responded to the call instead of watching from a distance, it was honored. There is divine reward attached to faith in motion. Now, as the aircraft stabilizes at cruising altitude, look around in the spirit. The atmosphere feels different. Lighter. Clearer. Expectant. You are no longer asking whether the flight will happen. You are in it. And here is the assurance you must hold on to. What God initiates, He sustains. What He loads, He delivers. What He promises, He fulfills. The same power that called you to board will carry you safely to arrival. So lift your eyes. Release the residue of doubt. Embrace the altitude. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not late. You responded, and heaven responded in return. Seal this moment with faith. Type "I have boarded" in the comments if you believe God has lifted you into a new level. Blessing code 914 is now activated. As this journey continues, remember that every act of faith fuels more than your own breakthrough. When you release a super thanks, become a member, or sow through the PayPal link in the description or the PayPal QR code on your screen. You are helping others hear their final call. Scripture declares that those who sow into good ground will reap a harvest pressed down and overflowing. And this is God speaking life into your generosity right now. I declare boldly, I am partnering with heaven's mission through my seed. As you give, may open heavens pour over your household, may divine favor locate you swiftly, and may your generosity return multiplied in unexpected ways. Do not delay. Sow into this mission and let your obedience echo beyond this moment. The final call was real. The boarding was necessary. The takeoff was powerful, and the journey has begun. Heaven has responded to your yes.